I'm Catherine Valdez, and I've been working dispatch for Burlington County for 8 years now. Third shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., taking the calls that come in when most people are asleep and the world gets a little stranger. I've heard everything: domestic disputes that turn deadly, overdoses in gas station bathrooms, car accidents where the physics don't quite add up in the report. But there are some calls that make you question whether you heard what you think you heard, and others that make you hope you didn't. The dispatch center sits in the basement of the county courthouse, windowless and fluorescent lit, insulated from the world above by concrete and steel. We get maybe 30 calls on a typical night shift, most of them routine: drunk drivers, domestic arguments that escalate past midnight, the occasional break-in at a convenience store. I know the rhythm of Burlington County after dark, the ebb and flow of human crisis played out in crackling radio calls, and the steady hum of computer terminals. October nights are usually quiet. College kids are back in school, summer tourists have gone home, and the Pine Barrens settle into their autumn silence. Most people are asleep by 2 a.m., leaving the county to insomniacs, shift workers, and whatever moves through the dark spaces between towns. The call came in at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. I remember because I was drinking my third cup of coffee and watching the rain streak down the small windows near the ceiling, thinking how quiet the night had been. Too quiet, really. In 8 years, I've learned that the quiet nights are the ones that end with calls you can't forget. 911. What's your emergency? Hi. Yes. We need help. We're lost. The voice was a woman, maybe late 30s, trying to sound calm but with that edge that mothers get when they're scared and don't want their kids to know. We took exit 67 off I-95 about 3 hours ago to find a rest stop, and now we can't get back to the highway. I pulled up the GPS mapping system on my computer, fingers moving automatically through the familiar interface. What's your current location, ma'am? That's the problem. We don't know. We're driving through some kind of town, but it's not showing up on our GPS. None of the street signs have names on them. I frowned at my screen. Exit 67 should have put them near Pemberton, maybe Mount Holly. Rural area, but not exactly the middle of nowhere. Can you describe what you're seeing around you? She paused, and I could hear a man's voice in the background, presumably her husband. It's really strange. All the street lights are burned out, and every house looks exactly the same. White houses, 2 stories, same front porch, same mailbox, and they're all dark, no lights in any windows. Something cold settled in my stomach. I'd been dispatching in Burlington County long enough to know every development, every planned community, every cluster of houses within 50 miles. Nothing matched what she was describing. Are there any businesses? Gas stations? Convenience stores? No, nothing like that. Just houses. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Her voice was getting tighter. We keep trying to find a way out, but every road we take just leads us back to the same main street. It's like we're driving in circles, but the odometer says we've driven almost 50 miles. I started entering details into the call log, but my hands felt clumsy on the keyboard. What's your name, ma'am? Amy Castellano. I'm here with my husband Frank and our 2 kids. We were driving back from visiting my sister in Philadelphia. Okay, Amy, I'm going to try to help you figure out where you are. Can you tell me the last landmark you remember seeing before you took the exit? There was a sign for the Pine Barrens Wildlife Management Area, maybe 5 miles before the exit. But I swear, I've driven this route a dozen times, and I've never seen exit 67 before tonight. That made me sit up straighter in my chair. I knew that stretch of I-95 like I knew my own neighborhood, and the exits in that area were numbered in the 40s and 50s. There was no exit 67 between Philadelphia and Trenton. I'd driven it myself countless times. My supervisor, Lieutenant Morrison, had been reading reports at his desk across the room. He looked up when he heard the tone in my voice change. I caught his eye and pointed to my headset, then held up my hand to indicate something unusual. Amy, I'm looking at our mapping system, and I'm not showing an exit 67 in that area. Are you sure that's what the sign said? Positive. Frank saw it too. We were low on gas and looking for a rest area. I could hear tension creeping into her voice. Look, can you just send someone to help us? My kids are getting scared, and we've been driving around for hours. Lieutenant Morrison walked over and gestured for me to put the call on speaker. He'd been working law enforcement in South Jersey for 25 years, and his expression told me he was just as confused as I was. Amy, I need you to stay calm. Can you pull over somewhere safe and give me your GPS coordinates from your phone? We tried that. The GPS just shows a blank area. No roads, no towns, nothing. It's like we're driving through empty space. The hairs on the back of my neck started to rise. I've taken thousands of calls, and people get lost all the time, but this was different. There was something in Amy's voice, not just fear, but a kind of bewildered terror that comes from encountering something fundamentally wrong with the world. What about your cell phone signal? Are you getting good reception? That's another weird thing. We have full bars, but we can't call anyone except 911. Every other number just goes straight to a busy signal. I looked at my call display. The number was showing up as coming from inside Burlington County, but the cell tower information was scrambled. Just a string of numbers that didn't correspond to any tower in our system. Lieutenant Morrison leaned over my shoulder and whispered, "Get them to describe exactly what they're seeing, everything. Amy, I want you to describe exactly what you're seeing right now. Take your time." We're stopped at what looks like a main intersection. Four-way stop, no signs. There's a house on each corner. Identical white houses. 2 stories. Black shutters. Front porches with white railings. There's a mailbox in front of each one, but no numbers or names. The streetlight above us is dark, just like all the others. I was typing furiously, trying to think of any development or planned community that might match her description. Nothing came to mind. Have you seen any other cars? Any people? Nothing. It's completely dead. But, she hesitated. But what, Amy? This is going to sound crazy, but I swear the houses are different every time we come back to this intersection. I mean, they look the same, but they're not in the same positions. Like the one with the slightly crooked porch was on the left before, and now it's on the right. Lieutenant Morrison's face had gone pale. He grabbed another headset and plugged in, then started typing on a different computer terminal. Amy, this is Lieutenant Morrison. I'm going to have one of our patrol units try to find you. Can you flash your headlights and honk your horn so they can locate you? Yes, we can do that. Thank you. I dispatched Unit 12, Deputy Sarah Chen, to the area around the supposed exit 67. While we waited, I kept Amy on the line, trying to gather more information and keep her calm. How are your kids doing? I asked. They were asleep when this started, but they're awake now. My daughter Emma keeps asking why all the houses look the same, and my son Michael says he saw someone looking out of one of the windows, but when we drove by again, the window was boarded up. Boarded up? Yeah, like it had been that way for years. But I know it wasn't before. I specifically remember seeing lace curtains in that window the first time we passed it. Lieutenant Morrison was on another line, talking to the state police. From what I could hear, they were just as puzzled as we were. No reports of road construction, no missing persons, no exit 67. Unit 12 to dispatch. Deputy Chen's voice crackled over the radio. I'm at the area you described, mile marker 48 to 52 on I-95, but I'm not seeing any development matching that description. Just pine woods on both sides of the highway. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. Amy, are you still there? Yes, we're here. We've been flashing our lights and honking for 10 minutes. Can't your officer see us? Amy, our unit is in the area, but they're not able to locate you. I need you to try something. Can you drive back the way you came and try to find the highway entrance? We've tried that probably 20 times. Every road leads back to this same main street. It's like we're trapped in some kind of loop. That's when her husband's voice came through more clearly. He must have taken the phone from her. Listen, I don't know what kind of game this is, but we need help. We've been driving for almost 4 hours, and our gas gauge hasn't moved, not even a little. The tank was half full when we took the exit, and it's still showing half full. That's impossible. The room felt smaller suddenly. Lieutenant Morrison was coordinating with multiple agencies now, trying to figure out where the Castellano family could be. But every system we checked, every database we accessed, told us the same thing. They were describing a location that didn't exist. Frank, I need you to stay calm. We're doing everything we can to locate you. Then explain this. Frank's voice was getting sharper. We just passed the same house for what must be the 100th time, and I decided to write down the position of a broken fence slat. 6th, slat from the left, broken in half, hanging down. We drove around the block, came back to what should be the same house, and the broken slat was in a different position. 3rd, from the right, hanging at a different angle. Lieutenant Morrison looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Genuine fear, mixed with professional bewilderment. Frank, are you saying the houses are changing? That's exactly what I'm saying. They look the same, but they're not the same. It's like someone is rearranging them while we're not looking. For the next hour, we had units from 3 different agencies trying to locate them. State police helicopters with thermal imaging, K9 units, even had the fire department checking abandoned developments in the Pine Barrens. Nothing. It was like the Castellano family had called us from a place that existed only in their car. At 4:30 a.m., Amy's voice came back on the line. Different now. Quieter. More scared. Catherine? You're still there, right? I'm here, Amy. How are you holding up? Something's happening. The houses, they have lights on now. Just came on all at once, maybe 5 minutes ago. Every house, same warm yellow light in the same window. 2nd floor, front right. That's good news, right? Maybe someone can help you. Number. Her voice was barely a whisper. We knocked on one of the doors. No answer. But we could hear footsteps inside. Walking back and forth, same pattern, same pace. So we tried the next house. Same footsteps, same pattern, same timing. Every house, Catherine, the exact same footsteps. The dispatch center felt like it was holding its breath. Lieutenant Morrison was back on the radio, coordinating with agencies across 3 counties now. Still nothing. Amy, I need you to get back in your car and keep trying to find a way out. We're driving now. But Catherine, there's one more thing. The odometer stopped working an hour ago, but we've been counting the houses as we pass them. There should be maybe 40 or 50 houses in a development this size, right? That sounds about right. We've counted over 300, and we're still counting. The line went quiet, except for the sound of their car engine and the soft murmur of her children in the background. I could hear Emma asking her mother why the streetlights were following them, and Michael saying that all the mailboxes had the same name on them now, but he couldn't read what it said. Catherine? I'm here. I think we're going to drive until we find a way out, or until the car stops. Will you stay on the line with us? Of course. I stayed with the Castellano family until my shift ended at 7 a.m. The last thing Amy said to me was that the sun was coming up, but it was rising in the wrong direction, and the shadows the houses cast were all pointing toward their car no matter which direction they drove. Lieutenant Morrison told me to log the call as a miscommunication and forget about it, but I didn't forget. I went home and researched every exit 67 I could find. There are several across different states, but none where Amy described. A week later, I was driving home from work when I passed a billboard I'd never noticed before. Pine Barrens Rest Area, exit 67, next right. I almost ran off the road. I took the exit, and it led to a normal rest area with a McDonald's and a gas station. I never heard from the Castellano family again. No missing persons report was ever filed. No abandoned car was ever found. But sometimes, when I'm working the night shift and it gets too quiet, I'll check our GPS system for active cell phones in the area around the Pine Barrens. There's always one signal out there, moving in a slow, steady circle through coordinates that don't correspond to any roads on our maps. It never stops moving, and it never calls for help anymore. I hope they found their way out. But late at night, when the rain is hitting the dispatch center windows just right, and the world feels like it might be bigger and stranger than we pretend during the day, I'm not so sure they ever will. I learned a long time ago that the worst calls aren't the ones that end in violence. I'm Trooper Marcus Webb, 15 years with the North Carolina State Highway Patrol. I work the mountain districts around Asheville, covering everything from DUI checkpoints to domestic calls in the hollers, where GPS signals go to die. Mountain people keep to themselves mostly, but when they call for help, it's usually because something has gone genuinely wrong. The Blue Ridge Mountains have their own rhythm, their own rules. Towns tucked into valleys where cell service cuts out without warning, roads that twist back on themselves until you're not sure which direction you're heading. I've learned to navigate by landmarks rather than technology, the crooked oak tree at Miller's Curve, the abandoned gas station with the faded Coca-Cola sign, the bridge where the paint peels in exactly the same pattern every spring. October in the mountains means leaf season, which brings its own problems. City folks rent cabins for long weekends, drive mountain roads they're not used to, drink too much wine on decks with no railings. Most calls are routine fender benders on winding roads, noise complaints from neighbors who move to the mountains for peace and quiet, the occasional domestic dispute that escalates when people are cooped up together in unfamiliar spaces. I'd been patrolling the Blue Ridge Parkway when the call came in, routed to me because the local sheriff's department was dealing with a multi-car accident on Interstate 26. Dispatch said it was a welfare check at a short-term rental property college kids who'd called about harassment from property management. The call came in on a Sunday morning in November, routed to me because the local sheriff's department was dealing with a multi-car accident on I-26. Dispatch said it was a welfare check at a short-term rental property college kids who'd called in about harassment from property management. Trooper Webb, responding to 4185 Laurel Ridge Road, I radioed back, ETA 15 minutes. The address took me up a winding mountain road, past the kind of vacation homes that city people rent when they want to experience authentic Appalachian life for a weekend. Big glass windows, wrap-around porches, and enough space between properties that you could scream for help and nobody would hear you. The houses sat on lots carved out of the mountainside, connected by gravel driveways that switch back down from the main road. 4185 Laurel Ridge Road was a 2-story log cabin with a green metal roof set back about 50 yards from the road. There was a silver Honda Civic in the driveway with Pennsylvania plates, and I could see movement behind the windows. Normal enough, except for the fact that every single light in the house was on, despite it being 9:30 in the morning on a bright, clear day. I parked the patrol car and walked up to the front door. The porch was decorated with the kind of rustic touches that rental companies use to create atmosphere. A wooden rocking chair, mason jars filled with dried flowers, a welcome mat that said, "Life is better in the mountains." Before I could knock, the door opened and a young man stepped out. Early 20s, Penn State sweatshirt, the kind of nervous energy that comes from not sleeping. His eyes had that slightly unfocused look that people get when they've been staring at screens too long or haven't been eating regularly. "Thank God," he said. "Are you here about our call?" "I'm Trooper Webb. What seems to be the problem?" "I'm Jake Morrison. We rented this place for a long weekend, me and 3 friends from college, but something really weird is happening, and we can't get hold of the property owner." I looked past him into the house. 3 other kids were sitting on a leather couch, all looking tired and anxious. Suitcases and duffel bags were stacked by the front door, like they were ready to leave. The house had that sterile, over-decorated feeling that vacation rentals get too many throw pillows, too many inspirational signs about living your best life. "What kind of weird?" I asked. Jake ran his hands through his hair, which looked like he'd been doing that a lot lately. "We checked in Friday afternoon. Everything was normal. But yesterday morning, we woke up, and all our stuff was packed and sitting by the door, just like that. And there was this note slipped under the door with checkout instructions." He handed me a sheet of paper. It was printed on letterhead that read, "Blue Ridge Mountain Retreats," at the top. The instructions were standard enough: return the key to the lockbox, take all trash with you, check that all windows and doors were locked. But at the bottom, in different handwriting, someone had added, "Thank you for your stay. We hope you found what you were looking for." "Did you contact the rental company?" "That's the thing," Jake said. "The guy who owns the place. His name is David Chen. We've been texting and calling him since Friday, and he keeps responding like we just arrived. Every morning, we get a text welcoming us to the property and asking if we need anything. But when we tell him about the packed bags and the checkout notes, he acts like he doesn't know what we're talking about." I pulled out my notepad. Something about the whole situation felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on what. "Show me the messages." Jake pulled out his phone and scrolled through a text conversation. The messages from David Chen were exactly what he'd described: friendly welcome messages. Each one dated a different morning, each one treating the conversation like it was starting fresh. "And this happens every morning?" "Every morning. We unpack, go to bed, wake up packed again with a new checkout note. This is the 3rd day." I looked at the date on my phone. Sunday. "But you said you checked in Friday afternoon." "Right. Friday, Saturday, today. 3 days. Something wasn't adding up. The math felt wrong, but I couldn't figure out why. "Can I see your rental confirmation?" Jake went inside and came back with his phone, showing me a booking confirmation email. The reservation was for Friday through Monday, 4 days, 3 nights. But according to his description, they'd experienced the pack and checkout cycle 3 times, which should have taken at least 4 days. "Jake, what day do you think it is?" "Sunday, November 12th. I looked at my patrol car's computer display through the windshield. The date showed November 15th, Wednesday. "Son, it's Wednesday." His face went pale. "That's impossible. We've only been here 3 days. I walked to the patrol car and radioed dispatch. "Central, I need you to run a property check on 4185 Laurel Ridge Road. Who's the registered owner?" "Stand by, Trooper Webb." While I waited, I walked around the house. Everything looked normal from the outside, but I noticed something odd. There were no power lines running to the house. No cable lines, no phone lines. For a rental property with Wi-Fi and modern amenities listed in the booking description, that didn't make sense. The landscaping was perfect, too perfect. The grass was evenly cut, the flower beds were weed-free, but everything had an artificial quality to it, like a movie set dressed to look lived in, but not quite getting the details right. "Trooper Webb, we show that property as vacant. Has been for about 8 months. Owner of record is Helen Morrison, but she passed away last spring. Property's tied up in probate." I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. "Central, did you say Morrison?" "Affirmative. Helen Morrison." I looked back at Jake, who was standing on the porch watching me. "Jake, what's your last name again?" "Morrison. Jake Morrison." The pieces were falling into place in a way that made my skin crawl. I'd seen enough strange things in 15 years of mountain patrol to know when something was fundamentally wrong with a situation. "Jake, do you have any family in this area?" "My grandmother used to live around here somewhere, but she died earlier this year. I never really knew her. My dad and her didn't get along." "What was her name?" "Helen Morrison." I walked back to the house, my hand instinctively moving closer to my radio. The other 3 college students had come out onto the porch now, all carrying their packed bags. I noticed that their clothes looked exactly the same as they had when I'd first arrived. Jake in his Penn State sweatshirt, one of the girls in a blue cardigan, another in a black jacket. Like they'd been wearing the same outfits for days. "Jake, I need you and your friends to come outside right now." "Why? What's wrong?" "Just do it. Now." The 4 college students came out onto the porch. I could see the confusion and growing fear in their faces as they realized something was seriously wrong. "I need to ask you all something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. What do you remember about Friday night?" They looked at each other uncertainly. The girl in the blue cardigan spoke first. "We got here around 4, unpacked, made dinner, watched a movie, I think." "What movie?" She frowned. "I don't remember." "What about Saturday?" I asked. "Same thing, pretty much," Jake said. "Woke up, packed, unpacked, made dinner, watched a movie." "Same movie?" "I think so. It's weird. I can't really remember details." I pulled out my phone and called the number listed on Jake's rental confirmation. It went straight to a voicemail message. "You've reached David Chen. I'm sorry, but this number is no longer in service." The kids were starting to look genuinely scared now. I radioed for backup and asked dispatch to contact the probate attorney handling the Morrison property. While we waited, I had them sit in my patrol car and asked them to empty their pockets. Each of them had the same things: wallet, phone, car keys, a few pieces of candy. But all of their phones showed the same date, November 12th. And all of their phone batteries were at exactly 73%. "How long do your phone batteries usually last?" I asked. "Usually need to charge them every night," the girl in the black jacket said. Her name was Sarah, I'd learned. "When's the last time you charged your phones?" They looked at each other. Nobody could remember. The backup unit arrived, Deputy Collins from the Buncombe County Sheriff's Department. I filled him in while the kids waited by the patrol cars. "I want to check inside the house," I told him. We went in together. The house was furnished but felt wrong somehow. Everything was too clean, too perfectly arranged. There were no personal touches, no signs that anyone actually lived there. The refrigerator was empty except for bottled water. The pantry had canned goods, but they were all the same brand, arranged in perfect rows like a grocery store display. In the living room, there was a DVD player with a single movie, queued up some romantic comedy I'd never heard of. The same movie the kids had been watching every night, probably. Deputy Collins found something in the master bedroom that made him call me over. On the nightstand was a leather journal, open to a page dated November 10th, Friday. The handwriting was shaky, like someone elderly or sick had written it. "Jake is coming to visit. I never thought I'd see him again. I've prepared everything just the way I want it to be. I hope he stays forever." The next entry was dated November 11th. "Jake is here. He looks just like his father did at that age. I made them comfortable. They won't want to leave." November 12th. "Perfect. Another day with Jake. I can keep them safe here. They don't need to go back to that world. They can stay with me forever." The entries continued, same message, same handwriting, for what looked like dozens of pages, all dated November 12th. I closed the journal and looked at Deputy Collins. "We need to get them out of here." When we went back outside, the sun had moved. It was late afternoon now, but my watch only showed 30 minutes had passed since we'd gone into the house. The college students were asleep in the patrol cars, all in the exact same positions. I shook Jake awake. "Jake, how do you feel?" He blinked slowly. "Tired. Really tired." "What time is it?" "Time to go home." I had them follow me down the mountain in their Honda. In my rearview mirror, I watched the house get smaller and smaller, until we turned a curve and it disappeared behind the trees. At the bottom of the mountain, I had them pull over at a gas station. Their phones had updated to the correct date and time, November 15th, 4:15 p.m. They seemed more alert, more like normal college kids. "Officer," Jake said, "I know this sounds crazy, but I feel like I've been asleep for days. Where were you planning to go after your weekend trip?" "Back to school. We have classes tomorrow." "What classes?" He thought for a moment. I can't remember my schedule." I gave them my card and told them to call if they remembered anything else. They drove away, and I never heard from them again. Later that week, I drove back up to Laurel Ridge Road. The house was still there, but it looked different. Older, more run down. The windows were boarded up, and there was a no trespassing sign on the front door. I called the probate attorney. He told me that Helen Morrison had been trying to reconcile with her estranged son for years before she died, but he'd never responded to her letters. She'd left everything to her grandson Jake in her will, but nobody had been able to locate him to notify him of his inheritance. The attorney also told me something that made me pull over to the side of the road. Helen Morrison had died on November 12th, a Tuesday. But the kids had experienced November 12th as a Sunday, and they'd lived through it at least 3 times. I never filed a report about what happened at the Morrison property. Some things don't fit into the boxes we're supposed to check on our paperwork. But sometimes, when I'm patrolling the mountain roads at night and the radio gets quiet, I drive past 4185 Laurel Ridge Road. The house is always dark now, but occasionally I'll see a single light on in the front room and the shadow of someone moving around inside. I wonder if they ever found what they were looking for. Some trails don't lead where the maps say they should. I'm Deputy Rachel Torres, and I've worked for Knox County Sheriff's Department in East Tennessee for 6 years. Most of my calls are routine domestic disputes, shoplifting at the mall, teenagers drinking behind the Dairy Queen. But every so often, you get a call that makes you question everything you thought you knew about the world. The Smoky Mountains have always been strange territory. Ancient Cherokee lands where the mist rolls between peaks like something alive, where GPS signals cut out without warning, and cell towers can't quite reach into the deepest hollers. I grew up here, learned to navigate by landmarks that my grandfather taught me: the twisted oak that looks like a dancer, the rock formation that resembles a sleeping bear, the creek that runs backward during heavy rains. Knox County sits right at the edge, where civilization meets wilderness. One minute you're responding to a fender bender in a Walmart parking lot, the next you're hiking 3 miles into the backcountry to check on a missing hiker. The transition happens faster than you'd expect. Suburban sprawl gives way to national forest, with barely a breath between them. October evenings bring their own challenges. Tourists come for the fall colors and underestimate how quickly the mountains can turn dangerous. College students think a day hike means walking until you get tired, then walking back. They don't account for how easy it is to lose the trail when every tree looks the same and the sun drops behind the ridgeline earlier than expected. It came in around 8 p.m. on a Thursday in September. Dispatch said, "We had a missing person report at the Walmart on Kingston Pike. A 17-year-old girl who'd been gone for over 4 hours after telling her friends she was going to explore a hiking trail she'd found behind the store." I knew that Walmart. There was no hiking trail behind it, just a loading dock and a steep slope covered in kudzu that led down to the Tennessee River. I figured the girl had probably run off with a boyfriend and would turn up by morning with some story about losing track of time. When I arrived, the parking lot was busy with the usual evening crowd. A woman in her 40s was waiting by the customer service entrance, pacing back and forth while talking on her phone. She waved me over as soon as she saw the patrol car. "Are you the officer? I'm Carol Brooks. My daughter Madison is missing." "When did you last see her, Mrs. Brooks?" "About 4 hours ago. We were shopping for school supplies, and she got bored. Said she was going to wait outside." Carol's voice was tight, with the kind of controlled panic that parents get. When I came out, her friends said she'd gone to check out some hiking trail behind the store. "What friends?" Carol pointed to 3 teenagers standing near the shopping carts. 2 girls and a boy, all looking anxious and guilty in the way that kids do when they know they should have stopped someone from doing something stupid. I walked over to them. I'm Deputy Torres. Which one of you saw Madison last? The taller girl spoke up. I'm Jessica. Madison was complaining about being bored, so she walked around to the back of the store. She came back like 5 minutes later and said she'd found this cool hiking trail that nobody knew about. Said it looked like it went all the way to the river. Did any of you go with her? We told her it was stupid. The boy said, I'm Tyler. I told her there's no hiking trail back there, just a bunch of garbage and weeds. But she said she could see a real trail with markers and everything. What kind of markers? Jessica pulled out her phone. She took a picture before she left. Look. The photo showed Madison standing next to what looked like a standard trail marker, a brown wooden post with a white blaze painted on it and a small sign that read, River Trail, 2.3 miles. Behind her, I could see what appeared to be a well-maintained dirt path disappearing into the trees. The problem was, I knew there was no river trail behind that Walmart. I'd been back there before, chasing shoplifters and checking on reports of drug activity. It was just a steep, overgrown slope. When was this taken? I asked. About 4 hours ago, Tyler said. She sent it to our group chat and then said she was going to check it out. We haven't heard from her since. I radioed for backup and asked Mrs. Brooks for Madison's cell phone number. When I called it, it went straight to voicemail, but the call went through, which meant her phone was probably still powered on. Mrs. Brooks, I need you to try calling your daughter. She dialed the number on speakerphone. After 4 rings, Madison answered. Mom? Madison, where are you? We've been looking everywhere. I'm on this hiking trail behind Walmart, but something's wrong. I can't find my way back. I took the phone from Mrs. Brooks. Madison, this is Deputy Torres with the Sheriff's Department. Can you describe where you are? I'm on this trail. I've been walking for hours, but I can still see the Walmart parking lot through the trees. It looks like it's right next to me, but every time I try to walk toward it, the trail just keeps going straight. What do you mean you can still see the parking lot? Like, I can see people walking to their cars. I can see the store lights. But when I call out, nobody looks in my direction. And when I try to leave the trail to get to the parking lot, there's just more trail. I looked at Mrs. Brooks, who had gone pale. Madison, I want you to stop walking and stay exactly where you are. I'm coming to find you. Okay, but Deputy Torres? My phone says I've walked 8 miles, but I swear I can see my mom's car in the parking lot right now. The line went dead. I walked around to the back of the Walmart with the 3 teenagers and Mrs. Brooks. Just as I'd expected, there was no trail, just the loading dock, some dumpsters, and a steep slope covered in thick vegetation. This is where she found the trail, Jessica said, pointing to a spot between 2 dumpsters. There was nothing there but a chain-link fence and overgrown weeds. Are you sure? I asked. Tyler pulled out his phone and showed me the GPS location where Madison had sent the photo. According to his phone, she'd been standing exactly where we were now standing. I called for additional units and requested a search and rescue team. While we waited, I had dispatch try to ping Madison's phone for a location. The coordinates came back as being approximately 10 miles southeast of our current position, deep in the Cherokee National Forest. But that was impossible. She'd only been gone for 4 hours, and it would take most of the day to hike that far. My backup arrived, Deputy Martin and Deputy Chen, along with a K-9 unit. I showed them Jessica's photo and explained the situation. That's definitely a trail marker, Deputy Martin said. Looks official, but there's no river trail in this area. Maybe it's an old trail, Deputy Chen suggested. Something that got overgrown? I contacted the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation to ask about any historical trails in the area. They confirmed what I already knew. There had never been any maintained hiking trails behind that shopping center. While we were talking, Mrs. Brooks' phone rang. Madison again. Mom, I'm getting scared. I can see you all standing by the dumpsters. But when I yell, you don't hear me. And there's something else. I keep passing the same trail marker over and over again." "What do you mean, the same marker?" I asked, taking the phone. "Every half mile or so, there's another river trail sign, but they all say 2.3 miles. Like I'm not making any progress, but my phone says I've walked almost 12 miles now. Madison, I want you to try something. Turn around and walk back the way you came." I tried that. The trail just keeps going. There's no end to it in either direction. I could hear the panic creeping into her voice. "Madison, are there any other people on the trail?" That's the weird part. I keep seeing other hikers up ahead, but when I try to catch up to them, they're always just out of reach, and they all look like they're wearing the same clothes. "What kind of clothes?" "Blue jeans and white t-shirts. All of them. And they all have the same backpack." Mrs. Brooks was crying now. I handed the phone back to her while I tried to figure out what to do. We had a missing person who claimed to be on a trail that didn't exist, in a location that was simultaneously right next to us and miles away in the national forest. "Madison," Mrs. Brooks said into the phone, "can you see anything else? Any landmarks?" "Just trees and the trail. Oh, and I can still see the Walmart. But Mom, the sun hasn't moved. It's been the same time of day since I started walking." I checked my watch. It was almost 9 p.m. now, but if Madison was telling the truth, she'd been walking in what felt like late afternoon sunlight for over 5 hours. The K9 unit couldn't pick up any scent trail behind the store. The dog seemed confused, circling the area where Madison claimed to have found the trailhead, whining softly. I decided to try something different. "Madison, I want you to use your phone's camera and show us what you're seeing." She switched the call to video. The image showed exactly what she described: a well-maintained dirt trail winding through forest with professional-looking trail markers every few hundred yards. In the distance, through the trees, I could clearly see the Walmart parking lot and our patrol cars. But here's what made my blood run cold. In the video, I could see myself standing next to Mrs. Brooks by the dumpsters. I could see Deputy Martin talking on his radio, Deputy Chen checking the fence line. But when I looked around our actual location, Madison was nowhere to be seen. "Madison, wave at us," I said. In the video, I watched her hand appear in frame, waving. But looking at the actual parking lot, there was no one waving. "Can you walk toward us? Toward the parking lot?" She started walking in the video, moving toward what appeared to be our location, but she never got any closer. The parking lot remained at the same distance, and we never saw her approach our actual position. The search and rescue team arrived and immediately headed into the national forest to check the coordinates where Madison's phone was pinging. I stayed at the Walmart with Mrs. Brooks and kept Madison on the phone. Over the next 2 hours, Madison's phone showed that she had walked over 20 miles, but she was still passing the same trail markers, still seeing the same view of the Walmart parking lot, still unable to reach us. At 11 p.m., search and rescue radioed back. They'd found the GPS coordinates in the national forest, but there was nothing there, no trail, no signs of recent human activity, just dense wilderness. "Madison," I said into the phone, "I need you to try something. Stop walking and sit down." "Okay." The video showed her sitting on what looked like a wooden bench beside the trail. "Deputy Torres, I'm getting really tired, but I'm not hungry or thirsty. I should be starving by now. How do you feel otherwise?" "Like I'm dreaming, but I know I'm awake. Everything feels a little too bright, too perfect. And the other hikers I keep seeing, they never get tired. They just keep walking at the same pace, like they're on some kind of loop." I was running out of options. "Madison, what if you step off the trail? What happens if you try to walk through the woods instead of staying on the path?" "I tried that earlier. I can see off the trail, but when I try to step into the woods, my feet just won't leave the path. It's like there's an invisible barrier." Mrs. Brooks took the phone back. "Madison, honey, I need you to listen to me. I want you to close your eyes and think about home. Think about your bedroom, your dog, your favorite restaurant. Really focus on those things." "Okay, Mom." Madison's voice was getting fainter. "I'm thinking about Buster. I miss Buster." The video feed started to break up, and Madison's voice became harder to hear. "Mom, I think I see something different. There's a way off the trail. It looks like..." The call ended. We tried calling back for the next 3 hours. The phone rang, but no one answered. Search and rescue combed the national forest until dawn, following every possible route Madison could have taken. They found nothing. At sunrise, I was standing behind the Walmart, staring at the spot where Madison claimed to have found the trail. In the early morning light, I could see something I'd missed in the darkness. A faint depression in the ground, barely visible, like the ghost of an old path. I followed it for about 50 yards before it disappeared completely into the undergrowth. But for those 50 yards, it felt like a real trail, worn smooth by countless feet over countless years. The case was officially closed as a runaway after 2 weeks. Madison Torres was never found, and her phone stopped pinging after that final call. Mrs. Brooks moved away 6 months later, unable to bear living in a town where her daughter had simply vanished. But I still patrol that area regularly, especially in the early morning hours when the light hits the trees just right. Sometimes I'll see other people back there, teenagers mostly, standing where Madison claimed to have found the trail, looking confused and slightly lost. I always approach them, ask if they need help. They usually say they're looking for a hiking trail they heard about, something called the River Trail. I tell them there's no trail back there, just woods and weeds, and they should go home. Most of them listen, but sometimes, when I drive by later, their cars are still in the parking lot, and I know I'll be getting another call soon. Sometimes the desert shows you things that shouldn't be there. I'm Trooper Daniel Reeves, 12 years with the Nevada Highway Patrol. I work the stretch of U.S. Route 50 between Fallon and Ely, 370 miles of what they call America's loneliest road. It's not tourism marketing, it's a warning. Out here, you can drive for an hour without seeing another car, and cell phone service comes and goes like a mirage. The desert has its own rules. What looks like a rest stop from 5 miles away turns out to be a rock formation when you get close. Heat shimmer creates lakes that don't exist, and at night, distant lights can be anything: ranch houses, radio towers, or just stars sitting low on the horizon. I've learned not to trust what I see until I can touch it, and even then, I'm sometimes not sure. Route 50 cuts straight through the heart of Nevada, connecting small towns that exist mainly to service travelers bold enough or foolish enough to take the loneliest road. Austin, Eureka, Ely, each one a thin line of civilization, stretched across an ocean of sagebrush and alkali dust. Between them, there's nothing but open range, abandoned mines, and the occasional gas station that marks the difference between making it to the next town and becoming another cautionary tale. Most of my calls out here are routine in the way that desert routine goes. Tourists who run out of gas because they underestimated the distances, RVs that break down in 100-degree heat, the occasional drunk who thinks he can drive to Reno after closing down a bar in Austin. The real emergencies are the ones where people disappear. Car found on the roadside, keys in the ignition, no sign of where the driver went. The desert keeps those secrets. October nights on Route 50 can drop 40 degrees from the daytime high. The tourists are gone by then, leaving the highway to long-haul truckers and locals who know better than to be out here without extra water and a full tank of gas. I was running patrol between Austin and Eureka when the call came in a welfare check on someone who'd called 911 from mile marker 97. "Trooper Reeves, I've got a weird one for you," dispatch said through the radio static. Male caller, mid-20s, Says he stopped at a gas station and something doesn't feel right. Wants an officer to check on his location. What's the nature of his concern? That's the strange part. He says everything seems normal, but his girlfriend is telling him the gas station burned down 3 days ago. He's asking us to verify which one of them is seeing things correctly. I knew mile marker 97. It was about 15 miles east of Austin, middle of nowhere, just sagebrush and open range on both sides of the highway. There had never been a gas station there, as far as I knew. Dispatch, can you confirm the business name and address? Caller says it's Desert Star Travel Center, mile marker 97 eastbound, but I'm not showing any commercial properties at that location. I pulled up the mapping system on my patrol computer. Mile marker 97 showed nothing but empty desert. The nearest gas station was 30 miles in either direction. I'll check it out. ETA, 20 minutes. The drive east from Austin took me through familiar territory, rolling hills covered in sagebrush, distant mountains that looked purple in the growing dusk, and the endless ribbon of asphalt that stretched toward the horizon. I'd driven this section of highway thousands of times, and I knew every landmark, every turn, every place where the road dipped or rose. As I approached mile marker 97, I started watching for any signs of commercial activity. Nothing. Just the same empty landscape I'd seen for 12 years. But as I crested a small rise, I saw something that made me slow down and pull over. There, exactly where my GPS said mile marker 97 should be, was a gas station. Not the burnt remains of a gas station, a fully operational Desert Star Travel Center, complete with lit signs, clean pumps, and a convenience store with bright fluorescent lights visible through the windows. I sat in my patrol car for a full minute, trying to reconcile what I was seeing with what I knew to be true. I'd driven past this exact spot hundreds of times. There had never been anything here but desert. I radioed dispatch. I'm at mile marker 97. I'm showing a Desert Star Travel Center at this location. Copy that, Trooper Reeves. Are you able to make contact with the caller? I pulled into the parking area in front of the gas station. There was a red Honda Civic parked next to one of the pumps, and I could see a young man sitting in the driver's seat, talking on his phone. He looked up when he saw the patrol car and waved. I got out and walked over to him. Early 20s, California license plate. The kind of road trip gear you see in cars, driving cross-country, cooler in the back seat, maps spread on the dashboard, snack wrappers and energy drink cans. Are you the person who called about the gas station? I asked. Yeah, officer, I'm Connor Hayes. He looked relieved to see me. I think I'm losing my mind, or my girlfriend is, and I need someone else to tell me what's real. What seems to be the problem? Connor gestured toward the gas station. I stopped here about an hour ago to get gas and some snacks. Normal stop, nothing weird about it. Attendant was friendly, gave me directions to Ely, told me to drive safe, but when I called my girlfriend in Sacramento to let her know I was okay, she freaked out. Why? She says this gas station burned down 3 days ago. Says it's been all over the local news because the owner died in the fire. She's looking at traffic cameras right now, and she swears she can see nothing but burned out ruins where we're standing. I looked back at the gas station. The lights were on. I could see the attendant moving around inside the convenience store, and there was no sign of any fire damage. Connor, I need you to call your girlfriend back and put her on speaker. He dialed the number, and after a few rings, a woman answered. Connor, are you still at that place? You need to get out of there right now. This is Trooper Reeves with the Nevada Highway Patrol. Ma'am, what's your name? Jessica Chen. Officer, Connor is in serious danger. The Desert Star Travel Center burned down 3 days ago. The owner, Carl Martinez, died in the fire. It's been all over the news here. I could hear the fear in her voice, but I was looking directly at what appeared to be a perfectly normal gas station. Jessica, I'm standing here with Connor at the Desert Star Travel Center right now. The building appears to be intact and operational. That's impossible. I'm looking at the Nevada Department of Transportation traffic cameras right now. Mile marker 97 eastbound shows nothing but charred concrete and twisted metal. Connor looked at me with an expression of growing panic. Officer, one of us is seeing something that isn't there. I walked closer to the gas station building, studying it carefully. Everything looked normal, too normal maybe. The paint was perfect, the windows were spotless, and there was no wear or weathering that you'd expect to see on a building that had been operating in the desert for any length of time. Connor, how did you pay for your gas? Cash. The attendant made change from the register. Do you still have the receipt? He reached into his pocket and pulled out a receipt from Desert Star Travel Center, dated today, showing a purchase of $32.50 for gasoline and $16 for snacks and drinks. I radioed dispatch again. I need you to run a business license check on Desert Star Travel Center, mile marker 97, US Route 50. Stand by. While I waited, I decided to go into the store and talk to the attendant. Connor, stay here. I'll be right back. I walked toward the entrance of the convenience store. The glass doors opened automatically, and I stepped inside. It was exactly what you'd expect. Aisles of snacks and drinks, a coffee machine, a hot food counter, lottery tickets behind the register. A man in his 50s stood behind the counter, wearing a uniform shirt with Carl embroidered on the pocket. Evening, officer, he said with a smile. Everything okay out there? Just checking on a customer. How long have you been operating this location? Oh, about 15 years now. Quiet spot, but we get enough traffic to keep the lights on. Any problems lately? Fires, accidents, anything like that? Carl shook his head. No, nothing like that. Quiet as always out here. I bought a bottle of water and a pack of gum, paid with my credit card. Carl ran the transaction normally, handed me a receipt, and wished me a good evening. Trooper Reeves, dispatch, came through my radio as I walked back to Connor's car. Go ahead. No business license on file for Desert Star Travel Center at that location. State records show no commercial properties between mile markers 90 and 100. Connor was staring at me as I approached. Officer, my girlfriend is saying the traffic camera shows you walking around in an empty lot. She says she can see your flashlight, but there's no building there. I looked back at the gas station, then at Connor. I want you to start your car and follow me. We're going to drive to the next town. What about the gas I bought? Should I just start your car? As Connor pulled out of the gas station parking area, I followed behind him in the patrol car. In my rearview mirror, I watched the Desert Star Travel Center. For a moment, it looked exactly as it had when we were there. Bright lights, clean building, Carl visible through the windows. Then, as we reached the crest of the hill about a quarter-mile away, I saw something that made me pull over again. In my mirror, the gas station was gone. Not burned down, not damaged, just gone. Nothing but empty desert and a dark highway. I radioed Connor on his cell phone. Connor, stop the car and look back. Both of us got out of our vehicles and looked toward mile marker 97. There was nothing there but darkness. Officer, Connor's voice was shaking. Where did it go? I didn't have an answer for him. I called Jessica back and asked her to describe what she was seeing on the traffic camera. I can see both of you standing next to your cars, she said. But behind you, there's just empty desert. No buildings, no lights, nothing. Connor pulled the gas station receipt out of his pocket. In the beam of my flashlight, we both watched as the paper crumbled to dust. I escorted Connor to the next town and made sure he had enough gas to reach his destination. He gave me his contact information, but when I tried to call him a week later, the number was disconnected. I filed my report as a welfare check on a confused motorist. I didn't mention the gas station that appeared and disappeared, or the attendant who may or may not have been named Carl Martinez. But I did some research when I got home. It turns out there had been a Desert Star Travel Center at mile marker 97 built in 1998 by a man named Carl Martinez. It burned down on October 15, 2011, exactly 12 years before Connor Hayes stopped there for gas. Carl Martinez died in that fire, trying to save the cash register and a box of photographs from his office. I drive past mile marker 97 at least once a week. It's always empty now, just desert and sagebrush and the endless Nevada sky. But sometimes, late at night when the moon is dark and the highway is empty, I'll see a faint glow in my peripheral vision. I never slow down to look closer. Some things are better left in the past, even when the past doesn't want to stay there. Sometimes, the most terrifying calls are the ones where nothing is technically wrong. I'm Deputy Amanda Cross, and I've worked for Larimer County Sheriff's Department in Colorado for 9 years. My beat includes Estes Park, which means I spend a lot of time at the Stanley Hotel noise complaints during wedding receptions, tourists who've had too much to drink, the occasional theft report when someone's camera goes missing. The Stanley's been around since 1909, and in that time, it's accumulated more than its share of stories. Most people know the hotel from The Shining, even though Kubrick filmed the movie somewhere else. But Stephen King did write the book after staying here, and the place has leaned into its reputation ever since. Ghost tours, paranormal investigations, Halloween parties, the usual tourist attractions that come with a allegedly haunted hotel. I've never put much stock in ghost stories, but I've learned that old buildings have their own personality, their own way of making people feel unsettled. Estes Park sits at the edge of Rocky Mountain National Park, and during tourist season, we get calls from people who aren't used to mountain living. The altitude affects some visitors, makes them feel dizzy or confused. The isolation can be unsettling for city folks who are used to constant noise and activity. And old hotels like the Stanley, with their creaking floors and settling timbers, can play tricks on people's minds, especially late at night when the mountain wind picks up. October is shoulder season in Estes Park. The summer crowds have gone home, but the ski season hasn't started yet. The Stanley runs at about half capacity, mostly older couples and families taking advantage of off-season rates. It's quiet enough that when something unusual happens, it stands out. The call came in around 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. Dispatch said we had a disturbance at the Stanley Hotel family, complaining about a problem with their room assignment. Deputy Cross responding to Stanley Hotel, room 237. I radioed back. ETA, 5 minutes. I'd been to room 237 before, usually for noise complaints. It was on the second floor, corner room with a view of the mountains. Nothing particularly special about it, as far as hotel rooms go. When I arrived at the Stanley, the night manager met me in the lobby. His name was Robert Walsh, and he looked more confused than concerned. Deputy Cross, thank you for coming. We have a guest family that's, well, they're having some kind of misunderstanding about their room. What kind of misunderstanding? They're claiming the belongings in their room aren't theirs, but I've checked our records 3 times. They're registered for room 237. They have the correct key, and the room was prepared specifically for their stay. Are they saying someone else's belongings are in the room? That's what they claim, but the belongings match their registration family of 4 from Denver, staying for 3 nights. Everything checks out on our end. Robert led me to the elevator and up to the second floor. Room 237 was at the end of a long hallway lined with vintage carpet and wallpaper that had probably been there since the 1970s. I knocked on the door, Larimer County Sheriff's Department. The door opened immediately, like someone had been waiting right behind it. A woman in her early 40s looked out, relief evident on her face. Thank God. I'm Lisa Chen. We called because something very strange is happening with our room. What seems to be the problem, Mrs. Chen? Our key opens the door perfectly, but this isn't our room. These aren't our belongings. These aren't our photos, and we've never seen any of these people before in our lives. I looked past her into the room. It appeared to be a normal hotel room, 2 queen beds, a small sitting area, a dresser with a television. I could see suitcases on the luggage racks, clothes hanging in the open closet, and personal items arranged on the nightstands. "Can you show me what you mean?" Lisa stepped aside to let me enter. Her husband and 2 teenage children were sitting on one of the beds, all looking anxious and confused. "This is my husband David and our kids, Emma and Michael," Lisa said. "We checked in this afternoon, went out for dinner, and when we came back, everything was different." "Different how?" Lisa walked over to the dresser and picked up a framed photograph. "This was on the nightstand when we got back, but we've never seen these people before." The photograph showed a family of 4, 2 adults and 2 teenagers, standing in front of what looked like the Stanley Hotel. They were smiling and appeared to be on vacation, much like the Chen family. But when I looked closely, I could see that these were definitely not the people standing in the room with me. "Could someone have switched the photos while you were out?" "That's what we thought at first," David Chen said. "But look at this." He opened one of the suitcases on the luggage rack. Inside were clothes that clearly didn't belong to any of them, wrong sizes, different styles, completely different wardrobes. "And the toiletries in the bathroom?" Lisa added. "Prescription bottles with names we don't recognize, a different brand of toothpaste than what we packed, even a different razor than the one David brought." I walked around the room examining the belongings. Everything looked normal and lived in, but the Chens were right. Nothing seemed to match their family. The clothes were wrong sizes, the personal items were wrong brands, and the photographs showed different people entirely. "Let me check with the front desk," I said. I radioed down to Robert Walsh and asked him to come up to the room. When he arrived, I showed him the photograph and the belongings. "Mr. Walsh, can you verify that this is the correct room for the Chen family?" Robert checked his tablet and nodded. "Yes, room 237, reserved for David and Lisa Chen, family of 4, 3 nights. This is definitely their room." "But these belongings don't belong to us," Lisa said, holding up the photograph again. Robert looked at the photo, then back at the Chen family, then at the photo again. His expression didn't change. "Mrs. Chen, that's a lovely family photo. It looks like it was taken right here in front of the hotel." "But that's not us in the photo," Lisa said, her voice rising slightly. Robert studied the photograph more carefully, then looked at Lisa with a puzzled expression. "Ma'am, I don't understand. This is clearly you and your family." The room went quiet. Lisa looked at the photo, then at Robert, then at me. "Robert," I said carefully, "look at Mrs. Chen, then look at the woman in the photograph. Are they the same person?" Robert looked back and forth between Lisa and the photo several times. "Of course they are. I don't understand the confusion." Lisa showed me the photo again. The woman in the picture had different hair, different facial features, and was wearing clothes that Lisa definitely wasn't wearing when the photo was supposedly taken. "Mr. Walsh, I need you to look very carefully. Compare Mrs. Chen's face to the woman in this photograph." Robert studied both for a long moment, then nodded confidently. "Same person, definitely the same family. I remember checking them in this afternoon. But the people in the photograph were clearly different from the Chen family standing in the room." I asked Robert to wait in the hallway while I talked to the family privately. When he left, I turned to the Chens. "How long have you been in Estes Park?" "We got here around 3 this afternoon," David said. "Checked in, unpacked, then went to dinner around 6. We were only gone for about 2 hours." "And when you came back, everything was different?" "Not everything," Lisa said. "The room layout is the same. The bed configuration is the same. But all of our personal belongings have been replaced with someone else's things." I walked over to the bathroom and looked at the prescription bottles Lisa had mentioned. The names on the labels were Patricia Henderson and Mark Henderson, not Chen. "Have you heard those names before? Patricia or Mark Henderson?" The family shook their heads. I went back into the hallway and asked Robert to check his registration system for anyone named Henderson. "No Hendersons registered," he said after checking his tablet. "We do have the Chen family in 237, and that's the only family of 4 currently staying with us." What if there was a mix-up? Maybe the Hendersons' belongings were delivered to the wrong room. Deputy Cross, I've been working hotels for 20 years. Room mix-ups happen, but not like this. These belongings were already in the room when housekeeping prepared it for the Chens. And I personally verified that the room was set up correctly. I went back into the room and asked the Chen family to step into the hallway. I wanted to examine the room more carefully without them watching. Everything looked normal for a hotel room occupied by a family on vacation. The belongings were arranged naturally, not like someone had hurriedly moved them there. The clothes in the closet were hung properly. The toiletries in the bathroom were arranged like someone had been using them regularly. But there were details that bothered me. The prescription bottles were dated from 6 months ago, but the contents looked fresh. There were family photos scattered around the room, all showing the Henderson family at various ages and stages of life, as if they'd been traveling with these photos for years. I picked up a wallet from the dresser. Inside was a driver's license for Mark Henderson, issued 3 years ago, with an address in Denver, the same city the Chen family was from. The license photo showed a man who looked nothing like David Chen. When I called the Chens back into the room, I showed them the driver's license. "Do you recognize this address?" David looked at it and went pale. That's 3 blocks from our house. "Have you ever heard of Mark Henderson? Maybe a neighbor?" "No, never. But Deputy Cross, there's something else." Lisa walked over to the window and pointed outside. "Look at the parking lot." I looked where she was pointing. In the hotel parking lot, I could see their silver Honda Pilot exactly where they said they'd parked it. "But when we got back from dinner," Lisa continued, "there was a blue Toyota Camry parked in that exact spot. We had to walk around the hotel twice looking for our car before we found it parked behind the building." "Where's the Toyota now?" "Gone. But here's the thing. The parking receipt on the nightstand shows a Toyota Camry, not a Honda Pilot." She handed me a parking receipt from the Stanley Hotel, dated today, showing a blue Toyota Camry with a license plate that didn't match the Chen's vehicle. I was starting to feel like I was losing my grip on what was real and what wasn't. Every piece of evidence suggested that the Henderson family was staying in room 237, but the Chen family was physically present and had a valid key. I decided to try something different. I took photographs of the Henderson family photos with my phone, then asked the Chens to pose in similar positions. When I compared the images side by side, they were clearly different families. But when I showed the photos to Robert Walsh, he insisted they looked identical. "Robert, I need you to do me a favor. Look at this photo of the Chen family that I just took, and this older photo that was in the room. Tell me if you see any differences." Robert studied both photos for several minutes. They looked like the same people to me, just taken at different times. Maybe the hotel photo is older? But the Chen children in my photo were clearly different ages, different heights, and had different facial features from the teenagers in the Henderson family photos. I spent another hour in that room, documenting everything I could find. The more I investigated, the more convinced I became that 2 different families had somehow occupied the same space, but only one of them was visible to the hotel staff. At midnight, I finally told the Chen family that I couldn't resolve the situation through normal channels. I suggested they might want to request a different room, but Lisa said something that stopped me cold. "Deputy Cross, we tried that. We went to the front desk before we called you, and they moved us to room 241. But when we got there and opened the door, it was the same thing. Different belongings, different photos, all belonging to people we'd never seen before." I never filed a complete report about what happened in room 237 that night. How do you document something that makes no sense? Something that suggests reality itself might be more flexible than we want to believe. The Chen family checked out the next morning and drove back to Denver. I heard later that they never stayed in a hotel again, always choosing vacation rentals where they could see exactly what they were getting. But sometimes, when I'm patrolling late at night and I drive past the Stanley Hotel, I'll see lights on in room 237. And I wonder if the Henderson family is still there, unpacking their belongings and arranging their photos, completely unaware that they're sharing their space with guests who can never quite find their way home. Some places refuse to let go of the people who once called them home. I'm Trooper Janet Miller, 14 years with the Pennsylvania State Police. My patrol area covers the coal regions of Columbia and Northumberland counties, including what's left of Centralia, the town that's been burning underground since 1962. Most people know the story by now. A coal seam caught fire, the ground became unstable and toxic, and the federal government relocated the residents in the 1980s. What's left is a handful of cracked roads, some concrete foundations, and a lot of warning signs about dangerous gases. The coal regions have always been hard country. Towns built around mines, families that worked the same shafts for generations, communities that died when the coal played out or the companies moved on. Centralia was different though. The people didn't leave because the work disappeared. They left because the ground beneath their feet turned into a furnace that's still burning 40 years later. I patrol Route 61 regularly, the highway that used to run through Centralia before it was permanently closed due to ground instability. The detour adds 20 minutes to anyone's drive, but it's necessary. The old highway is cracked and buckled from the underground fire, with steam rising from fissures where poisonous gases seep to the surface. Sometimes curiosity seekers park at the barriers and walk in to see the famous graffiti highway, but I usually have to turn them back. The air isn't safe to breathe for extended periods. October in coal country means early darkness and the kind of damp cold that settles into your bones. The forests are changing color, but there's something melancholy about autumn here. Too many abandoned towns, too many empty houses with boarded windows. It's the time of year when you start thinking about communities that existed for decades before vanishing almost overnight. The call came in around 7 p.m. on a Thursday. Dispatch said we had a confused delivery driver asking for assistance with a routing issue. Trooper Miller, I've got a delivery driver on Route 61 claiming his GPS sent him through Centralia. He sounds pretty shaken up. That's impossible. Route 61 through Centralia has been closed for 20 years. How did he get past the barriers? That's what he's trying to figure out. Says he needs police assistance to verify his location and help him get back to his scheduled route. I knew the barriers on the old highway, concrete blocks and steel posts that would stop anything larger than a bicycle. There was no way a delivery truck could have gotten through without someone deliberately moving them. What's his current location? He says he's parked on Locust Avenue in Centralia, but that can't be right. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the October evening. Locust Avenue had been one of the main residential streets in Centralia, but it hadn't existed as a functional road since the mid-1980s. I'll check it out. ETA, 15 minutes. The drive to the Centralia area took me through familiar territory, rural Pennsylvania farmland, scattered houses, and the occasional reminder of the coal mining heritage. As I approached the closed section of Route 61, I could see the barriers were exactly where they should be, undisturbed and clearly impassable. But about a quarter mile past the barriers, I could see lights, vehicle headlights, and what looked like interior lights from houses, as if there were people living in an area that had been empty for decades. I parked at the barrier and called dispatch. I'm at the Route 61 closure. The barriers are intact, but I'm seeing lights in the Centralia area. I'm going to investigate on foot. Be careful, Trooper Miller. The air quality reports for that area are still hazardous. I grabbed my flashlight and radio and climbed around the concrete barriers. The old highway was cracked and broken, with weeds growing through the asphalt, but it was still passable on foot. As I walked deeper into what used to be Centralia, the lights grew brighter. What I saw made me stop and radio for backup immediately. There, parked on what appeared to be a fully intact Locust Avenue, was a delivery truck with its hazard lights on. The street looked exactly like a normal residential neighborhood. Houses with lights on, well-maintained sidewalks, even street lamps that were working. The delivery driver was standing next to his truck, looking confused and anxious. He was a young man, maybe late 20s, wearing a uniform shirt and holding an electronic clipboard. "Are you the officer I called?" he asked when he saw me approaching. "I'm Trooper Miller. What's your name?" "Marcus Williams. I drive for Express Package Solutions." "Look, I know this is going to sound crazy, but my GPS routed me through this town due to construction on the main highway, and I've been making deliveries here for the past 2 hours. I looked around at the houses. They appeared to be fully occupied, lights on, cars in driveways, the sounds of televisions and conversations drifting from open windows. Marcus, what town do you think you're in?" "According to my GPS, this is Centralia, Pennsylvania. But that can't be right. I thought Centralia was a ghost town." "It is, or it's supposed to be. How did you get past the road barriers?" Marcus looked genuinely confused. "What barriers? My GPS just routed me straight through. I've been delivering packages to normal families for 2 hours. Look." He showed me his electronic delivery log. It showed 17 successful deliveries on Locust Avenue, Center Street, and South Street, all in Centralia. Each delivery was marked as completed, with electronic signatures from residents. "Marcus, I need you to show me exactly where you've been making these deliveries." We walked to the first house on his list, 245 Locust Avenue. It was a modest 2-story home with a well-maintained front yard, porch light on, and a car in the driveway. Through the front window, I could see a family watching television. "This is where I delivered a package to the Johnson family about an hour ago," Marcus said. "Nice people. Mrs. Johnson signed for it and gave me a $5 tip." I walked up to the front door and knocked. After a moment, a woman in her 50s answered. "Good evening, ma'am. I'm Trooper Miller with the Pennsylvania State Police. Did you receive a package delivery this evening?" "Oh yes, about an hour ago. Very nice young man." She looked past me at Marcus. "That's him right there. Is there a problem with the delivery?" "No problem, ma'am. Can I see the package you received?" She disappeared for a moment and came back with a cardboard box addressed to Mary Johnson, 245 Locust Avenue, Centralia, Pennsylvania. The shipping label looked completely normal and recent. "Mrs. Johnson, how long have you lived at this address?" "Oh, about 30 years now. Since 1992. It's a quiet neighborhood. We like it here." I looked at Marcus, who was staring at the woman with growing confusion. "Ma'am, I'm going to ask you a strange question. Are you aware that Centralia was evacuated in the 1980s due to an underground coal fire?" Mrs. Johnson laughed. "Officer, I think you have us confused with somewhere else. Centralia's never been evacuated. We've got the volunteer fire department, the post office, the school. It's a normal town." I walked back to Marcus, who was looking pale. "Trooper Miller, what's going on? That woman seems completely normal. She signed for the package, she knows the address, she's been living here for 30 years. But I thought you said this was a ghost town." I radioed for additional backup and asked dispatch to research the current status of Centralia. While we waited, Marcus showed me the rest of his deliveries. Each house appeared to be normally occupied. Families answered the doors, accepted packages, and behaved exactly like residents of a functioning community. But according to every official record I had access to, these people shouldn't exist. "Marcus, I want you to try something. Call your dispatcher and ask them to verify these delivery addresses." Marcus called his company's dispatch center and put the call on speaker. "Express Package Solutions Dispatch, this is Marcus Williams, driver 47. Can you verify the delivery addresses for Centralia, Pennsylvania?" Stand by, Marcus. I show you completed 17 deliveries in Centralia today. All confirmed, delivered to current residents. Is there a problem? Can you confirm that Centralia, Pennsylvania, is an active delivery location? Absolutely. We've been delivering to Centralia for years. Population around 800. Normal residential community. Why do you ask? Marcus looked at me with an expression of complete bewilderment. My backup arrived, Trooper Davidson, from the Bloomsburg barracks. When he climbed around the barriers and saw the fully populated neighborhood, he radioed immediately for supervisory assistance. Janet, what the hell is this? I thought Centralia was empty. So did I. But look around. We spent the next hour documenting what we found. Every house Marcus had delivered to appeared to be occupied by normal families. The streets were in good repair, the utilities were functioning, and everyone we spoke to insisted they were longtime residents of a thriving community. Marcus Williams. I drive for Express Package Solutions. Look, I know this is going to sound crazy, but my GPS routed me through this town due to construction on the main highway, and I've been making deliveries here for the past 2 hours. I looked around at the houses. They appeared to be fully occupied, lights on, cars in driveways, the sounds of televisions and conversations drifting from open windows. Marcus, what town do you think you're in? According to my GPS, this is Centralia, Pennsylvania. But that can't be right. I thought Centralia was a ghost town. It is, or it's supposed to be. How did you get past the road barriers? Marcus looked genuinely confused. What barriers? My GPS just routed me straight through. I've been delivering packages to normal families for 2 hours. Look. He showed me his electronic delivery log. It showed 17 successful deliveries on Locust Avenue, Center Street, and South Street, all in Centralia. Each delivery was marked as completed, with electronic signatures from residents. Marcus, I need you to show me exactly where you've been making these deliveries. We walked to the first house on his list, 245 Locust Avenue. It was a modest 2-story home with a well-maintained front yard, porch light on, and a car in the driveway. Through the front window, I could see a family watching television. This is where I delivered a package to the Johnson family about an hour ago, Marcus said. Nice people. Mrs. Johnson signed for it and gave me a $5 tip. I walked up to the front door and knocked. After a moment, a woman in her 50s answered. Good evening, ma'am. I'm Trooper Miller with the Pennsylvania State Police. Did you receive a package delivery this evening? Oh yes, about an hour ago. Very nice young man. She looked past me at Marcus. That's him right there. Is there a problem with the delivery? No problem, ma'am. Can I see the package you received? She disappeared for a moment and came back with a cardboard box addressed to Mary Johnson, 245 Locust Avenue, Centralia, Pennsylvania. The shipping label looked completely normal and recent. Mrs. Johnson, how long have you lived at this address? Oh, about 30 years now. Since 1992. It's a quiet neighborhood. We like it here. I looked at Marcus, who was staring at the woman with growing confusion. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you a strange question. Are you aware that Centralia was evacuated in the 1980s due to an underground coal fire? Mrs. Johnson laughed. Officer, I think you have us confused with somewhere else. Centralia's never been evacuated. We've got the volunteer fire department, the post office, the school. It's a normal town. I walked back to Marcus, who was looking pale. Trooper Miller, what's going on? That woman seems completely normal. She signed for the package. She knows the address. She's been living here for 30 years. But I thought you said this was a ghost town. I radioed for additional backup and asked dispatch to research the current status of Centralia. While we waited, Marcus showed me the rest of his deliveries. Each house appeared to be normally occupied. Families answered the doors, accepted packages, and behaved exactly like residents of a functioning community. But according to every official record I had access to, these people shouldn't exist. Marcus, I want you to try something. Call your dispatcher and ask them to verify these delivery addresses. Marcus called his company's dispatch center and put the call on speaker. Express Package Solutions Dispatch, this is Marcus Williams, driver 47. Can you verify the delivery addresses for Centralia, Pennsylvania? Stand by, Marcus. I show you completed 17 deliveries in Centralia today. All confirmed, delivered to current residents. Is there a problem? Can you confirm that Centralia, Pennsylvania is an active delivery location? Absolutely. We've been delivering to Centralia for years. Population around 800. Normal residential community. Why do you ask? Marcus looked at me with an expression of complete bewilderment. My backup arrived, Trooper Davidson, from the Bloomsburg Barracks. When he climbed around the barriers and saw the fully populated neighborhood, he radioed immediately for supervisory assistance. Janet, what the hell is this? I thought Centralia was empty. So did I. But look around. We spent the next hour documenting what we found. Every house Marcus had delivered to appeared to be occupied by normal families. The streets were in good repair, the utilities were functioning, and everyone we spoke to insisted they were longtime residents of a thriving community.